Hello and welcome. This is a Town Council School Committee public hearing, the Town of South Kingstown. The date is Thursday, April 15th. The time is approximately 7 p.m. And could you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Dale, may we have the roll call, please?
Council President Fogarty.
Here.
Council Vice President Eddy.
Here.
Councilwoman McAtee.
Here.
Councilman O'Neill.
Here.
Councilwoman Whaley.
Here.
All members present.
And we are joined tonight by the school committee, the town manager, Steve Alfred, and our finance director, Alan Lord. And tonight is a public hearing with the school committee participation relative to the town council's primary budget for year 2010-2011 as adopted on March 22nd, 2010. The public hearing address will both address the general fund and the school fund. And again, I'll read from the charter, public hearings. Following the approval of the preliminary budget, the council shall schedule and hold 2 public hearings, this is the second one, on separate days on both the municipal and the school budgets at which the school committee shall be represented. These hearings shall be scheduled and be completed on or before April 18th of each year. To inform the public prior to said hearings, the town clerk shall cause sufficient copies of the preliminary budget to be prepared for public distribution and shall arrange for notice of the public hearings and a summary of the preliminary municipal and school budgets in at least one newspaper of general circulation in the town as directed by the town council and posted copies in the town hall and on the town website and as otherwise directed by the town council. At the hearings, all the desirous of being heard shall be heard. Okay, so we are going to also remind everybody to use the mics. And again, this is the second public hearing. We had one last evening, and this is the second one tonight. And what we'll move forward through is, as we follow through, is that after this, people may make petitions to the council that will be heard on May 3rd. The council will have to amend or modify as we see fit. We vote up or down on any of the petitions. So that will be the next step in the process. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Alfred, who will give us an update, which is always changing from the state, from up above, on what we're dealing with financial matters. So Mr. Alfred, what's changed since last night? A lot.
Several things have changed since last night. As I reported to the meeting last evening, the supplemental budget that was adopted by the House of Representatives 2 days ago went to the Senate yesterday. Last night I advised that we had heard that the Senate had adjourned. What we found later on was that the Senate had rejected the House adopted budget. That means that the budget will need to go back to the House for redrafting, hopefully after consultation with the Senate in terms of what the various concerns are and changes that need to be made. The major point of contention appears to be related to the pension reform components of the House adopted bill. The Senate has indicated that they will not support the proposal to provide for reamortization of the state and teacher retirement system unfunded liability. The concern there that was expressed was that approximately $190 million in savings over a 4-year period did not justify the $2.2 billion added expenditure for that would be required under the reamortization. I would caution, as I did last evening, that the estimated revenues for the 9-10 year are directly associated with an approximate 2% reduction in pension costs on teacher retirement, which would have been garnered by the reamortization process, or would have been available had the General Assembly House approved the proposal as submitted in the governor's supplemental budget, which would have called for the deletion of the COLA for future retirees. The House-adopted version would have provided the savings of the 2%, or approximate 2%, by means of the reduced costs over the next 4 years under the reamortization, versus the total value of the unfunded liability being reduced by removing the COLA in general. So there's how the settlement is made between House and Senate, and how that relates to a governor's approval or an override of the governor's of that budget is still yet to be seen. Early indications are that the House Finance will not take the budget up for reconsideration until it returns from recess, which they will be out on recess all of next week. Each of the chambers has indicated that all options are back on the table, which means that municipal tools that had been suggested in the governor's budget that were not resident to the House budget would be back for reconsideration, or at least for discussion. That's the best update I can provide as far as what's going on in Providence at this point. The council, with the invitations to the school committee, has scheduled with the local legislators a meeting on May 17th. Hopefully prior to that date, more concrete information will be available at minimum on the 9-10 year, and hopefully some light shown on what actions will occur with the 10-11 year. Obviously, not only the revenue stream as far as state aid and ERA funds are at issue with the 10-11 budget, but also the determination on some folks' part to institute the Commissioner of Education's proposal for a school aid formula which would provide substantially less dollars to South Kingstown school system based on the methodology that's been proposed. That's where we are as far as an update on those agencies that will affect the municipal and school budgets for both current year and next year. At this time, if you want to move into the document, the warrant that has been prepared, if anybody in the audience does not have a copy, copies are available at the door. The document provides a summary of the 8 different funds that the town employs in the development of a municipal budget program. The first page of the document provides a general estimate as to what the projected property tax rate adjustments will be for the 2010-2011 year. The forecast at the time that the document was put out was $14.10. We are still hovering at that area. I would suggest at this point, based on revisions that we're seeing after the initial reval hearings, that that may be up a little bit higher. The calc is also assuming that the town will tax motor vehicles for their full value, which in prior years the $6,000 exemption was in place. That would mean that in addition to this rate increase, persons with a motor vehicle that would pick up the $6,000 in new taxable value would be responsible under an $18.71 tax rate of an additional $112 and roughly 50 cents. So we would be replacing state aid dollars for motor vehicle reimbursement under what's on the first page with additional tax revenue being generated from the taxpayers in South Kingstown. The overall tax levy increase proposed for the 10-11 year is shown at $995,283, or a 1.54% increase, which is roughly 3% below the property tax cap of 4.5%. If moving on to page 2 of the document, page 2 on the first section shows a summary of the 8 funds. In total, it shows a municipal program net of interfund transfers of $89,665,283. This represents a $1.6 million reduction from the adopted budget for the 9-10 year, or about 1.8%. The next subsection shows a functional distribution of the general fund. Again, we're showing approximately a $667,000 or 0.91% reduction in the general fund. Much of that reduction, or about $750,000, was taken out of that budget document on things that we would have liked to have had in there, but based on concerns over the loss of the state revenue, the municipal budget was reduced. This included reductions in personnel, as well as substantial reductions in our capital programming. The next section shows the general fund's revenue. The revenue statement that is provided there shows that, catch up with it. Shows that we will be losing in the state revenue sources approximately $1,948,000. You can see for the state revenue sources, it shows at $2,190,000, and that's down from $4,139,000 that was adopted in the current year. The next subsection provides for a summary detail on the school fund, both on its expenditures and income. Page 3 provides summaries for the remaining municipal funds. These include special revenue funds for the Peacedale office building, which is run with the leasing of that property, paying for the operational costs, and retaining any excess that's used for building improvements. Neighborhood Guild shows the cost of our programs as well as the sources of revenue. Neither of these two funds are subject to property tax transfers and do not relate to the property tax program. The next three funds, water, wastewater, and solid waste funds, are the three utility enterprise funds. Revenues necessary are generated through user fees or by subcontracts for services that are provided to the University of Rhode Island or the town of Narragansett. For the wastewater program, solid waste also is a combination of Narragansett and South Kingstown as far as use of the transfer station. The last fund that's recorded on page 3 is the senior services program, and that program does provide services with contributions from the town of Narragansett and the town of North Kingstown for the adult daycare services. It also provides a general contribution from Narragansett toward the nutrition program and toward the senior center. The only independent program that's run for South Kingstown alone is the transportation program. That's a summary of what's in the document. The last page is the page of resolutions, which are really financial directives to the finance director as far as management of the funds once appropriated for the budget. Most of these are going to be transfers from general fund to capital reserve funds for the capital budget, or as far as the enterprise funds, reimbursing the general fund for administrative services that are rendered through the general fund for support and operations. I can go through in detail those resolutions if there's questions. What I would suggest is that I'll turn it back to the council president and ask that we reference each of the funds and determine if there's questions on any of the budgets that are presented, and if there are questions, then for us to entertain those at that time.
Okay, thank you, Steve. All right, so we'll start reviewing the warrant and the preliminary budget. And first up on the preliminary budget is the general fund. So if anybody in the audience has any comments, you can please come forward at this time and state your name for the record. So general fund. Hearing none. Next, we move on to the school fund. Again, if there's any questions, please come forward, state your name for the record. Okay.
Hi, I'm Raisa Mosher. I just wanted to say a quick thank you. I know this may not be the proper venue for it, but I didn't get a chance to say it the other night, to Fred and also to the superintendent's team for reaching out to URI. I think that's really great, and I think we're going through a budget tornado, and I think it's really hard for you guys probably to do things that aren't related to the budget. So I thought that was a really good thing. I'm particularly interested in the senior year of high school, freshman year of college piece, and I know you'll talk more about that as you get more information. So I applaud you for that, and I want to say thank you. I just wanted to also speak to, I think it was Carol Vetter who spoke on Tuesday about the middle school model and the expense of that model related to team common planning period that happens every day, and the fact that if that was taken down to once a week, it could result in a potential budget savings of somewhere around $1 million a year. And at that time, I think Mr. Jackson expressed some concern about a loss of jobs. And I certainly don't relish anybody losing their job, but I just wanted to point out that with all of the budget reduction scenarios, there will be a loss of jobs. So we've already seen with the 1.2 million that has already been reduced, there was a loss of aide positions and custodial positions. If a school, an elementary school is consolidated, there's certainly going to be a loss of job administrative positions there, and potentially a principal, but I'm not sure how that's all working out. But with all of the potential budget reductions, there looks like if we eliminated all-day kindergarten, there would be a loss of kindergarten teachers. So unfortunately, I think that's where we're at. And the school committee has been vigilant over the course of the past however many years that we've had a declining population to kind of have the staffing reflect that, and I think that's what unfortunately has to happen. The population is continuing to decline, so I don't think that anybody's under any illusion that there's going to be more jobs or that we're not going to have to cut more positions. So I think as far as that's concerned, the thing for me is that what that means to the teachers, and whether, you know, it involves collective bargaining or whatever, it's not certainly my area of expertise, but it's not saying that we're going to take away money from you. It's not saying even, you know, I don't really understand the whole pension and the whole, you know, their benefit package and all of that kind of thing. But what this is saying is that if we took that down to once a week, that planning period, we could potentially save $1 million a year. It's saying we just want you one more period a day in the classroom. So it makes sense to me, and I am very pleased to see that we're going to see 4 options, and I hope that the loss of jobs concern as far as that middle school model is in relation to that middle school model, we can understand, and I'm sure you all do, I'm sure you understand this too, that whatever scenario we end up with, we're gonna lose jobs. Did you want to speak to that?
Oh, yeah, if you'd like to.
Could you push that mic?
Yeah, just,
Pull it forward.
people have been saying they haven't been able to hear at home, so just
It
speak
is very
clearly
hard
into the
to
mic.
hear at home.
Can you hear me? No.
Yeah, I think it's on, Kristen.
Hello?
Yes.
You can hear me?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. I guess one of my questions, and then I can speak to the possibility of eliminating common planning time. How is it that if you could explain to me, we would potentially save $1 million?
I think Carol is the person, I'm speaking to something that Carol spoke to, and if she does, she's an accountant, and I think she's the person that maybe if, that you could get
Okay.
with her.
Okay,
And
that's fair.
what she said originally, she had looked at it, and she wasn't aware that, and I know this all gets into a very fuzzy area that is difficult, but that she wasn't aware that the itinerants also had a common planning period.
Correct.
So I think that falls under the, that it has to be equal for all of the teachers because
Correct.
they all fall under the same union, but I don't know.
So
I don't know
that's
if there's
okay.
a way
I'm
to
just wondering.
get around that because even that to me, I don't know.
The level of
Even that to
equity
me.
among folks in the same collective bargaining unit is certainly important.
I
And
understand.
it's important to the folks in the collective bargaining unit. My initial reaction is twofold, and it's something that I'll give a little more depth to on April 27th.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to go through each and every email and each and every comment and make
Right.
certain that we're taking all of those looks into consideration. And common planning time is a part of the collective bargaining agreement. It
Yes.
would need to be something that is negotiated out. It's not
saw
something
that.
that we could just take out.
I did see that.
The second piece of it is it's also Rhode Island regulation, and Rhode Island regulation is law.
Is it every day? It's regulated by
It's
law?
actually, if you, when I do the presentation on the 27th, there will be a link.
Yeah.
If you'd like to email me before the 27th, I can certainly give you the link
Yeah.
to the Rhode Island Department of Education website that
Okay.
shows you it's a prescribed amount of common planning time that was started with when the Board of Regents for elementary and secondary education brought forth the proficiency-based graduation requirements
Right.
several years ago, and it first identified common planning law, how many pieces of common planning time are required for high school teachers, and then middle school teachers, most recently in the last few years. So I can send you that link, and maybe that will be helpful for.
I'm sure it will. The thing that I have a question about is that some middle schools are 5th through 8th grade, some middle schools are 6th through 8th grade. Currently, we're running a kind of half middle school model going on at the 6th grade and a full middle school model going on at 7th and 8th grade. So I'm not sure if and when you do that,
Right, because-
hopefully you can clear that up for me. I'm not sure how now if you call it a middle school, is it required, or if the 5th graders aren't there at the middle school? So
But
I'd be
I'm
interested
sort
to
of
have that
looking
cleared
at
up.
not the 5th graders, but the kids who are in middle school now.
Right.
Which is, I think, what Carol is referencing. So the 6th graders.
She actually did it for the 7th and 8th.
That's what I was referencing it for, is the 7th.
Right,
and 8th.
okay.
We also
Gotcha.
have it for 6th grade because they are in a middle school.
Okay.
But I was speaking to the point about the 7th and 8th
Gotcha.
grade
Okay, so
youngsters.
for-
So, yes, I'll go into detail of, talk to the Department of Certification. As you know, we've had a few conversations about certification. We'll get into deeper depth about that on the
Right.
27th. But from my perspective, because of regulation and collective bargaining, there wouldn't be a way for us to take advantage of the savings that Carol is saying that there are.
I don't know if I'm sure that you have much more information than I do. I don't know if this is something that's a feasible something to happen for next September. But what I'm concerned with is that we're going to make decisions based on what can happen for next September, and then we're not going to be able to undo those decisions and come back and make decisions that are right for the foreseeable future. And if the middle school model, collective bargaining is happening next, I'm not sure, May, whenever the contract is up, the collective bargaining is happening next May, then if that's something that can be taken out of that contract, I don't know, but if it is for next May and we're going to say we can't touch that in September, then that's unfortunate. That to me doesn't seem like we're really figuring out where exactly we want to go.
And so I agree with you in terms of collective bargaining, that is there certainly a chance with a new negotiation to put things in and take things
Sure.
out? There absolutely would be an opportunity to do that. There's not an opportunity to do that with Rhode Island law.
At all, in okay.
We're two completely different things. So the Board of Regents determine Rhode Island law in terms of regulation.
Yeah.
In order for us to graduate youngsters with diploma.
Does that include sixth grade?
It includes middle school. It most
So-
sure it depends, just like certification.
Yeah.
Depends how you organize the middle school.
Right.
But it certainly includes 7th and 8th grade.
For certain. Does Cranston run a middle school or a junior high?
Cranston, my understanding is that Cranston runs a middle school and then has 6th graders in an elementary school. Warwick, I think, no, I think Warwick has a middle school now too.
To a junior high?
To having 6th grade.
I knew they moved back sixth grade back to the elementary schools, but I wasn't sure if their 7th and 8th graders went back to a junior high model.
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
My daughter attends the Cranston Public Schools. My understanding is that it's a middle school, but I wouldn't go on record saying I know for sure that it's a middle school.
Just something, I mean,
it's
like that
definitely
man was
something
saying
to
last
keep a
night about
dialogue
about the transportation. If it's been done, then maybe there's a way to do it. So that's all. As far as that, I mean, I think maybe we can agree that the middle school model is more expensive. So, and then just one last thing, as far as we also talked about a little bit about some research studies and things like that, and Dr. Mega referenced he could find a research study, and I'm sure we all could, that would fit the other side of an argument, and I agree. So the only reason why I was bringing up a Duke University study is because I felt as though it was important to present my opinion and then have a little bit to back me up with that opinion. But I wasn't on the debate team, but I know that a debate team has two sides of an argument, and they can come up with pages and pages of studies and data to support two sides of an argument. So from what I'm hearing from not only parents, but also from taxpayers, even listening to the meeting last night, is kind of support of bringing the sixth graders back to the elementary schools from a fiscal standpoint, from an educational standpoint. So I'm very happy to see that that's something that you're looking into, and I look forward to the presentations to come on that, because I'm sure that you're going to put in a lot of research to hopefully see if you can make that happen. And that's what I look forward to. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
I just want to clarify one thing on the jobs thing, just context. What you said is correct. It just is a bigger picture to it when it comes to jobs. I had traded some emails back and forth. A lot of the ideas that we see, people have the perception that they don't affect other people. And I'll give an example here. One of the proposed cuts is a cut to a high school librarian, which we believe may be okay under Rhode Island law. So we put that on the list. The high school librarian came to the first meeting, was quite eloquent, and I'll speak publicly right now, I'm not against high school librarians, but that was one of the jobs that was listed as a potential cut. And came to the meeting, and then everybody came to the mic and said, well, don't cut that. And that's some of the struggles we have when it comes to jobs. When you have another alternative, my comment the other night is really tied into all the comments that all these affect jobs. There is no magic bullet. And that's what I was referring to. You sit there and say, well, we're going to we're going to, instead of having the teachers teach certain classrooms, and irregardless of all the laws and everything else, you're still getting down to FTEs and you're still getting down to jobs. So there's no magic bullet is all I was trying to say.
Okay, thank you, Kevin.
I think that's what I said at the beginning. I'm not sure if, but I think that we're in agreement that any scenario, we're going to lose positions. So when we get down to it, unfortunately, we have to figure out what's the best scenario for the taxpayers, for the parents, for the children, for everybody. And unfortunately, very unfortunately, we can't look and say Sally is worth more than Mary, because it's either Sally or Mary who are going to lose their job.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying, again, a lot of the community members have this perception that, oh, well, like I said, when you start to look at an actual cut, well, don't do that, and don't do that. And that's what all the effect is, different jobs. That's all I'm saying.
All right, thank you. Oh, okay, if you could please state your name for the record.
Yes. My name is Rosemary Galliani. Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
I am here as the manager of the Alternative Food Cooperative, which is located at 357 Main Street. And for a little background history, Dr. Stringfellow, because I know you're new to the area, we are the only cooperative in the state of Rhode Island. A cooperative is owned by its members, and we have been in business since 1974. It started at the URI campus, and we've moved a couple of places, and now we are located on Main Street for about going on to 11th year. I will say it is a struggle to keep the doors open, but we are supported by the community. And we employ 14 people. And as businesses come and go on Main Street, they have told us that we are the anchor store for Main Street. And that's why they come to Main Street. So I'm here tonight as a representative of the downtown merchants. And we have a petition. And if I may approach the table, I'd like to pass out a copy of the petition.
If you could actually, Jim, I guess it'll go to Jim. Dale, usually our clerk takes it, but we've got her pinned up there.
Should we take one or let Dale pass it on?
No, I will take one.
Thank you. And I'd like to read it so the audience can hear. It says, "We, the undersigned, as merchants in downtown Wakefield, do advocate to our town council and school committee to recognize the vitality that the Wakefield Elementary School community, parents, students, family members, teachers, and staff bring to our businesses and general sense of our community, as the school closures would significantly impact our businesses negatively in what is already trying economic times. We strongly urge you, as our elected leaders, to weigh this information heavily as you proceed with changes in school configurations in the coming years." And most every single person that we approached today signed this petition, and I didn't have time to get everybody. But I just hope that you can take this into consideration. And again, I've been here before, and I know you do not. It's not going to be easy, but Wakefield School is so connected to the local economy. That's what I'd like to leave you with. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gallant. Thank you. Okay, we're still on the school fund. And again, any concerns or questions regarding the school fund item, please come forward. State your name for the record.
Jonathan Daly LaBelle. You may remember me from last night. Just so I'm clear on the process, this right now you're presenting preliminary budget.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And the final budget will be adopted May 3rd?
Preferably, yes. Hopefully, yes.
Was there any way that that wouldn't be the case?
No, yes, May 3rd will be the date. That is what is on that is what is in the charter.
Okay.
Thank you.
So there was a school committee member. Again, I'll continue not to use names, although it seems like over the last few weeks, I realized that most community members can use names except for me. So I don't know if you want to end up reviewing that policy. But a school committee member said, felt that I was being disingenuous when the schedule has been announced for that the next conversation will be April 27th, because I was, probing to know what school committee, town council feels about the budget. And I wasn't the only one. There was probably 4 or 5 speakers that specifically came up and said, you know, can you share your thoughts? And it was pretty clear that, you know, this is listening, and you're not going to share your thoughts. Which is a little weird, but that's okay. But it's really not okay, because from what I understand, this April 27th meeting is really about configurations. It's not about budget. So this is really the community's last chance to hear from their leaders, you know, what their thoughts are on the budget before the final budget is adopted. Does that make sense to anybody in this room, or?
Tony, do you want to say something?
First of all, the school committee has passed their budget, but we continue every school committee meeting to put 2010, 2011 budget on the agenda. I don't foresee that changing. You know, the budget has been relevant at every discussion. I think we've also, and will continue to be welcoming of discussion in the context of the budget, how school reconfiguration potentially fits into budgetary needs. I just think that there was no new information in regards to that at this point in regards to the reconfiguration. That there are plans to look at different options of reconfiguration and also look at, does it have to be done? And that's a discussion that we try to frame out. We took the time on April 13th to frame it out just so we could give community members sort of a sense of what's in front, so people can make plans to attend. I just don't know what we would discuss tonight that would be new information. I don't know if you had any particular question that we could provide information that would be new. I just don't know what's new tonight compared to Tuesday night, and certainly in trying to get out a agenda to people, trying to get people to see, okay, this is what's in front, because there are going to be important discussions that are occurring over the next 3 school committee meetings.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of my concern comes from when I look at that presentation from Tuesday. If that presentation was made on September 15th, that would have been a beautiful thing. And I don't think that anybody would have felt under the gun. I don't think you would have felt under the gun. The community would not have felt under the gun and threatened, because there would have been time. You know, last year, it was all budget. The 6, 7, 8 schools were working, they were popular, okay, and you said budget is so bad, we're going to start to reconfigure the schools. And even included in that, breaking up that model, the 6th graders now only get half science and half social studies what they had been getting. So you knew that things were pretty bad. I mean, that's what you guys talked about at every meeting. So, yeah, do we know how bad? I mean, it could have been worse in a way, because I know I hear school committee members now say, you know, really had said, we may get no state aid. So I heard that as a more realistic possibility last year, you know, with the ILO bill, that was a realistic possibility. So how you decided to not start this conversation until February, you know, I don't understand. So now here we are, we have these meetings. This meeting looks like it's probably going to be done by 8 o'clock. Last night was done by 9. Okay, Tuesday night ran until midnight, and you had to shut it down. So to me, this would be an opportunity not to necessarily get into specific configurations, but just, I think really, how do we get here to flesh that out? Because what came up last night is this confusion, and I've heard from a couple people that have confirmed that the way that I took this process is that the town manager said to make the budget work and to be level funded and for all the pieces to come together, the school department is going to have to cut $1.2 million. All right, so I don't think that was just, Jonathan Daly LaBelle in Dream World, And when I read, budget that was presented February 11th, it's referenced in the first paragraph, in the preliminary meetings between the school committee and town council, the town manager indicated a goal of providing a 2% levy increase to the schools. It became apparent early in the budget process that even a 2% increase was unaffordable, and further reductions to the budget were made. It goes down, through some various points, noteworthy points, and one of them is a 0% increase in the appropriation from the town. So that was a piece that you guys were working off of that really came directly from the town manager and, to an extent, the town council. And then the March 10th presentation, the budget joint work session between the two boards, is on page 7. Again, this is a piece of how the budget was built. Town now projecting to only be able to provide a 0 levy increase to schools. And so, I'm going to, give the town manager some credit that, I understand that he probably doesn't, with everything he's got going on, he can't follow every minute of the school committee. And unfortunately, school committee meetings are not online. So even if he wanted to, it's not easy for him to pull up unless he DVRs the recording on TV. But I don't know he's going to go through that. But I know that it's in 2 presentations that I found. It may be in others. I tried to do some other things today besides just this. But I found it very easily in 2 of the presentations that this is how this came to be. And my recollection, which has been confirmed by a number of community members I've talked to, have said, yes, that's what they understand has happened. So the town manager set down his goals, the school committee, and I really, if I had to say, where do I have a larger problem? I would have a larger problem with the school committee, to be honest with you, because I think that, maybe the town manager could phrase things to, if he feels there is flexibility, maybe you could phrase things to indicate that. But at the end of the day, I think he's advising the town council with the fiscal watchdog aspect of things. The school committee is supposed to be looking out for the community's children and the quality of our schools. And I didn't hear any. That was a major problem of mine. There was basically no dialogue that I heard. And I'll give a lighter pass to people who are newer on the committee, But some of the people that have been here for a long time, I really think that that's your job to flesh that out and say, okay, strategically, programmatically, should we even cut this $1.2 million? Are there pieces of the puzzle that have already been cut? I'm not talking about what we're dealing with right here. I'm talking with how we got here. So are there pieces of that $1.2 million that were cut that should not have been cut? There was a minimal amount of hashing out over that, minimal. And just let's go right along with it. That's what the town manager said. Let's go right along with it. And then strategically, I didn't hear any discussion over, okay, well, what do we do if the state aid gets slashed? That's what we talked about last year. State aid is going to get slashed. So let's talk about it again this year. Is it wise to cut our budget down to the bare bone so that if state aid gets slashed, which is what we're talking about, and some school committee members have been really hard on saying, whatever the state gives us, they're going to give us. And we're not going to be able to change it. And they might end up giving us nothing. So in that context, I don't know how that decision was made, because it almost seems like it wasn't discussed. That there was no strategy behind that. So that's what I think would be valuable. It's 7:45. I think people are interested in this, and given the fact that I appreciate the fact that the budget's going to be on the April 27th agenda, but I've got a sense we're really not going to end up spending any time on that unless you want to stay at that meeting until 2 or 3 in the morning. So I think it would be an appropriate use of this community's leaders' time to talk about how that conversation happened over the last number of months and whether or not, before the final budget's adopted, you can come up with a solution that does not end up gutting our educational system further than has already happened.
First of all, when a budget is level funded, the cuts are due to what is happening on the expense side.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
When the budget is level funded, if there are cuts that have to be made, since there's not a cut in the revenue from the tax transfer from the town, those cuts are made because of what we have as fixed expenses. So I do think, I would love to pass obligation to other people, but you know, that's the truth, that's the reality. There have been years that we have felt it appropriate, and I've stated all along that it's not asking a town manager or a town council, it's asking town people. There have been years when it has been felt to be appropriate to expand the tax transfer from the town to the school in the eyes of the school committee to support quality education in this town. As a result of that, we do have quality education in this town. I share your concern in trying to maintain quality education in times of dire economic times. I share your concern about that. But again, it is not asking a council or a manager. It's asking a town, a community of individuals. And I think you've also heard the other side. You've also heard people come to the mic and say, it is difficult. We can't buy medications. Houses are being foreclosed. So I think you're going to have to open your lens to that, because that is the reality within our town.
Okay. I take that point, and I'm not immune to that. You know, my income in 2008 was half of what it was in 2007. Okay, that's not an exaggeration. Okay? So, I get it. Now, I can tell you, some of the speakers that come talking about cutting the budget, I mean, you guys may think that I'm a usual suspect, but, I mean, talk about usual suspects. And I literally feel that some people that come forward, and I'm not minimizing the foreclosure, I'm not minimizing the medications, I don't think that those problems can be solved at the local level. And that's a sad state of affairs for our entire country. But I think that you know some of the people that come forward looking to cut, your budget could be $30 million instead of $60 million, using round numbers, and they would still be here telling you that the budget, hey, $30 million. You've got to be able to cut a couple million. Okay, so I'm just making that point that no matter what, they're going to be there, and you're going to hear that. I don't know what the answer is, but I know as far as the people that have to cut their medicine in half to get what they need, and people that have lost their jobs and have split up or have a disability and they're losing their homes, I really, you know, I mean, I have some ideas, but I don't think we need to talk about it tonight. But those problems need to be solved from above. But if you think that by saving the average homeowner $30, $40, $50 is really doing them a favor, you know, that doesn't make sense to me. To really change the landscape of education in our community. And I understand what you're saying. You're trying to be kind and have a good relationship with the town council. But when I hear the budget hawk on the school committee, and I really don't hear, you know, and that's the main voice that I hear, I really, you know, I don't feel like you're living up to your role when that's the louder voice that I'm hearing from the school committee. Let the town council do their job. Let that get fleshed out. That will give community members a greater opportunity to come in and participate and speak. And then you would really know. So I hope that you guys can figure out a way to make this work. I don't know if you need more money or not. I know that there's proposals that would save more money than others, but I don't think that they can be adopted this September. So as mentioned, maybe tapping into your undesignated funds, maybe that would be the piece to buy a year. And then with the CBA being up, collective bargaining being up for the following September, maybe that would be a goal to replenish. You know, I understand you don't want to tap into that, but maybe that would be the goal to replenish your undesignated fund. Maybe that's the bridge. But I guess that's what I would like, that's what I think that people need to hear. Are you thinking about these things? You know, I think that the way, well, I won't get deeper than that, but I really would like to see the school committee advocating more for the children. I would like to hear the town council fulfill their role, talking about what people can afford, and then through that dialogue, I think it keeps groupthink from setting in, and I think it gives community members a greater opportunity to weigh in. And if it doesn't happen tonight, I don't know when it's going to happen, and I hope that the voters are paying attention, because November's around the corner, and if the leaders aren't going to lead, then maybe the voters should look at different options. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak on the school fund budget? Please come forward if you have anything else from the school fund budget, or we're going to move on to the next. Oh, Jim? Oh, I'm sorry, Jim, I think somebody else is going to come forward.
My name is Todd Carrere. I know a lot of times people come before you and they start with an apology that I'm new to the game or I haven't attended a lot of meetings. And I'm new to the game, but I have attended a fair amount of meetings. And I've sat in your seat on a slightly smaller scale, but no less challenging. And I sympathize with the financial stress that you have in your budgets, and certainly what you have. And I remember well, although it wasn't as severe, the stresses of not knowing what's going to come down from the State House in communication or dollars. I'm looking to you, the school committee, to protect the potential of my son and the developmental years of all of our children. What I see in this budget scares me, and I understand that you wouldn't be in those seats if you did not want the best for our children. As our representatives for our children, I know you don't have a clear idea of what the state's going to do for you and what you can do for us. But what scares me more is what I see and what I hear and what I don't hear. My laptop is full of inbox emails, Facebook requests, new friends, wall-to-walls. I'm more than grateful I don't have a Twitter account, because I can barely handle what I take from the community. And as I said, having sat in your seat and seeing some of the same faces, I understand that it's sometimes difficult to process information because you feel like you've been down this road before. A few months ago, I heard there was a rumor that my son's school was going to close, Wakefield Elementary. And, you know, like paying the phone bill, or I got to make my car payment, I processed it and it went away, and I didn't think about it because it was absurd. And then I learned a little more, and then I heard a little more, and then I heard about a charter school, and then I heard about a meeting, and I've attended some of your meetings, and I give you great credit. I was lucky enough to call all meetings off at 10 o'clock. I give you great credit for staying till midnight. What I'm most concerned about, in addition to the budget, is a lack of clarification and communication. I hear when I walk to school or when I pick my son up, there's conversation in the room, and I hear, this is what happened last night, or this is what might be happening, or did you hear this? And it takes a minute to process it. And what I'm looking for from, mostly I guess from the school committee, because this is most directed to you, is a new communication. I need something. I don't want to hear news at school about what might happen or what the potential is or or what's going to happen, even though it's probably not going to happen. I'm deeply concerned that my son has 21 other students, and I'm very concerned I don't see 21 sets of parents behind me. And I was here last night. My wife was at your meeting Tuesday night. So I understand you have made good efforts, and I thank you for that. You've done a good job of communicating on some level, and it's our job as the community. Maybe the other 21 sets of parents are not as furious as I am. They're not as concerned. I sent you all a letter maybe a month ago or so, and I referenced my walking my son to school. I totally understand that your budget cannot have a line item that addresses that critical 10 minutes when I walk my son to school, when I hear about Bakugans and Pokemons and stuff I don't really understand, but I go along with. I have that 10-minute window, and I know you can't balance your budget on that. But if Wakefield Elementary is going to close, or West Kingston or Matunic, I want that 10 minutes as a line item. It's why I moved here. And the town will move on if I move away. I've only been here 9 years. But through happenstance, I bought a house where I can walk to the meeting. And I can walk to school. And it's happenstance in a way because I lived on this little island where I could walk anywhere. And I moved to the big city. But there's a reason I live down the street from Wakefield Elementary. And there's a reason I pick my son up with a fishing rod and we go catch trout right next to school. What I'm asking for is, from the school committee most directly, is something verbal, written, a billboard, something that clearly addresses what's on your mind. Are you closing the school? Are you negotiating with the charter school? Are you reconfiguring? What are you doing? My point is, what are you doing? And I mean that with all due respect, with no animosity. I don't have a history with you. I have no ill feelings. I understand the situations you're under and the weight you're under. What I'm looking for from you is a letter, a poster, some level of communication which says, you're right, we may be closing Wakefield Elementary. It will save us X, and the benefit is this, and your son will be on a bus for this long. He may go here, may go there. Maybe that's the right thing to do, and if it is, then we'll work it out. I understand the money is tight. I'm at the risk of being redundant. I want something from you all that's new and clear and clean that we can all understand, and we can get mad at you if we have to, or we can cheer you if necessary, and then we know where you're at, because it's highly unbeneficial to you. It's disrespectful to you for me to hear what you're doing when I stand around the playground, which I hate to do because I get bored to tears, but I hear what you're up to, and I don't know that that's true. And I like to think that you're sitting there because you understand my 10 minutes. Not everybody can walk their son to school, I get that, but I want to know that you're there to represent the goals of my child and developing his potential, and I don't want to hear it in front of the jungle gym anymore. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there somebody else from the audience? No, if not, Jim, I think you were going to say something.
Thank you. Supporting our schools has been, I think this town has really stepped to the plate. I don't know of any community in this state our size that we're about 78% of our levy that goes to schools. You have to go to much smaller districts to see that kind of support. So the support has always been there. It's how we spend the money, and unfortunately, what I've really critical about, that we can't plan 2, 3, and 4, 5 years out. And that's also a product of what's happening at the state level that doesn't give us that comfort. What I heard last night, we really heard from some real people last night, as the school committee member mentioned. And maybe it's jealousy, maybe it's the way the labor market has broken down in this state. But just to comment on what those the commentary was last night, just to let folks know why there is such a gap, such a bridge between private and public sector employment. I grabbed a tax and budget bulletin today from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics through December of last year. And just here in the Northeast United States, public sector pay averaged $39.66 per hour in 2009. That's 45% higher than the private sector average. So I'm not going to play numbers here, but you heard a lot last night about pensions, 5% copay on your health. What people don't know, it's free dental. There's a lot of concern there, and you look at our budgets, and especially the school budget, which is over 80% for salary and benefits, and you can understand the concern. Mr. Alfred, a couple weeks ago at a council meeting, South Kingstown is catching up with the state for unemployment. We're almost 12%. 1,900 of your neighbors are not working. Youch. This is serious stuff. And I think we've got to really rethink on how we spend. You know, I hear the phrase zero-based budgeting, and frankly, I think we surround that at the town level. But just to start off with where we were with a budget last year and try to move forward on that, I'm very disappointed. And it's not often that I agree with Mr. Daley LaBelle, but frankly, over the last 6 months, I've been very disappointed. I think everyone knows how I voted on the budget. I voted against the budget. But I do agree with him that everyone, every time we do sit down together, we seem to tiptoe around the major issues. I think from the council standpoint, it's our job to look at the major issues in the state, and hopefully then we should be letting the school committee know these are major concerns. We hear from our manager, we hear from the General Assembly, we're not going to be able to do it this way anymore. Something's got to give. But we just don't seem to have that give and take, and it's very disappointing. And when you're talking about, 60, 70, all the way up to $90 million of a total budget, and we barely have a conversation, that's impossible. You can't run a business that way. That's absolutely incredible. But I keep coming back to the big picture here, and I just don't think this is recognized in both the town and the school budget, although I believe the town has really cut to the chase here, and really we are absolutely bare bones here. Our unemployment numbers in Rhode Island are not improving, and yet I don't hear that talked about. We have a $2.3 billion 5-year cumulative deficit forecast for the state. I don't hear that talked about. That's going to fall on our shoulders in combinations. I don't know what combinations, maybe straight line, maybe lump sum, but it is going to clobber us. Last night, we talked a little about pensions. How embarrassing that the General Assembly, the House, was willing to take some 2 or 3 year upfront money to put a $2.2 billion long-term debt on your children's backs. This is incredible. What kind of people do we have up there? We have a national debt, and now this? Who do they care about? And in total, we've got, and the numbers are absolutely right on the money now, $4.3 billion of state and teacher unfunded liabilities, $2 billion from the municipal level, not South Kingstown, but 23 municipalities contribute to that number. And we have almost $3 billion of unfunded post-retirement health care. I mean, just $9+ billion. Where? How? Unemployment fund. We just borrowed another $30 million. We're over $200 million in debt on that for those who are unemployed, hoping to get a check this week or next. And what's a real concern in a community like this that's had tremendous housing growth, and there's a company called First American Core Logic out of San Francisco who does the nationwide mortgages. And they, out of almost $50 million mortgages nationwide, 25%, 12.5 million mortgages, with their statistics through June of last year, not even current, were underwater. Youch. And if you think Rhode Island is immune from that, you ought to go to the vault and the deeds that I look at, because that's real. It's a real number. You just got your reassessments from South Kingstown. Personally, I'm back to where I was in 2003. We had a school budget property transfer then of 36 million. We're 48 million today. What gives? How about those thousands of homeowners who bought property in the last 6 years, 80% mortgage, 20% down, or adjustables, 5 or 10% down, borrowing 80, 85, 90, 95%. Just by looking at the town reassessment numbers, we've wiped out their equity. Wiped out their equity. There's only one measure of appraising, but we've wiped out their equity. Things we've got to look at here, because we get so much money from the state. Massachusetts has now gotten through 2 committees for 2 casinos and a minimum 3,000 new slot machines. 2 casinos, 3,000 new slot machines. If you've read the papers, you'll know that this is an incredible threat to Rhode Island's 3rd largest source of revenues, which are around $300 million from both Lincoln and Newport. Incredible threat. And that is a real threat now, because New Hampshire, their House has approved 6 casino slot locations. So this is real. This is money that is going to really, I don't know how we make up that revenue loss, because remember, even if we put a casino in, it's the expenses up front. We're missing the gravy from those people from Massachusetts that come do the add-on. It's the upfront. So this is serious stuff. Credit warning from 3 of the national credit agencies over the last month, warning us that if we're just going to Band-Aid these budget holes with limited budget solutions, that we risk a AA rating from a AAA. Serious stuff, guys. Anyway, I won't keep boring you. If anybody has to drive to work, you know you got $3 a gallon gasoline to heat a home, $3. Insurance cost to heat a home down here. I can't imagine what's going to happen with all our insurance companies after the recent water issues. But it is brutal to try to handle a household budget or a business budget. When our businesses in town take a look at the new tax rate, on average they're down about 6-7% with the reassessment. That means if you convert that, if my math is right, that's about a 15 or 16% gain. In other words, a larger, 15% larger liability next year over this current year tax basis. Anyway, back to, I think we got to rethink thinking. I think we need to sit down and start from scratch. And I don't care if we have to meet this weekend. I'd love to do it, 72 hours straight, water and bread only. We've got to come up with solutions. Don't let anybody out of a room. But this tiptoeing around these issues and just let this fester out in the community is not healthy. And I'm just very concerned that we are, again, flying by 1 year with just patching this budget and not long-term planning, and I think that's very dangerous, very, very dangerous. And just maybe one last thought here, but I was going to ask Steve if he could answer this. Do you know if the Senate kept in place the 1-year moratorium on maintenance of effort bill, or the ordinance?
My understanding, Jim, is that if not every element is accepted, no one element is accepted. So at this point, everything is on the table. The revisions that will occur could take that off the table, or could revise it, or leave it as is. So anything that had been discussed, or anything that could come in new, could come in with the reconciliation that has to be done at the House level.
Okay, but as it stands now, there was a 1-year 5%.
Maintenance of effort was reduced from 100 to the 95%.
Okay, so.
But again,
yeah.
that doesn't go in unless it's part of the approved budget. And at this point, they
Correct.
don't have an approved budget till both chambers agree to it.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, Kathy.
Okay, so that's the school fund. All right. Yes, Carol, absolutely.
I just wanted to say that, I can understand the frustration that everybody's feeling, especially regarding the educational situation. And I think we're all frustrated too. I mean, we just don't know. We're presented with a budget that we think is a good budget. It includes keeping Wakefield School open, is my understanding. But we just don't know where the state's going. And today's comments comments here in the Senate not agreeing with the House puts us just back to square one. We just don't know what direction they're going in. And I think, we all, I think I can speak for everyone that we want quality education. I mean, that's a goal for anyone who's sitting up here. And but we also have to do a balancing act, like Jim was saying. We have to concern ourselves with the economic times, with the people who are having trouble paying their medicine bills and their mortgages and their gas and their heat. And I mean, so we have to look at all possibilities. And we trust that the school committee is looking into the best interest of the children and quality education. And, we do have to be the fiscal watchdogs here to make sure that everything fits and we don't overburden the taxpayer. So with that said, I just wanted to clear up for myself with the superintendent, I believe. The next few meetings, I think it'll be clearer from the school committee and yourself as to what the possible scenarios could be. And that's what I just understood that you were saying. I think it was it April 27th?
Right. Posted online have been our revenue shortfall scenarios to date.
Okay.
So as I presented at this meeting a few weeks ago, there's certainly one scenario that could be additional deeper cuts to line items. Second scenario, the elimination of full-day kindergarten. The third scenario, the consolidation of an elementary school. And then on April 20, we've had lots of discussions about those three scenarios. On April 27th, there will be a deeper discussion about consolidation with 4 different looks. One would be the closure of Curtis Corner Middle School. What would that look like? One would be the closure of Matunic Elementary School, Wakefield Elementary School, and West Kingston Elementary School. And so as presented on my slides that were posted online, we're going to look at those 4 scenarios through 3 different lenses. One would be, what is it going to look like? I'm going to provide maps of specifically, if there is redistricting in a scenario, what will it look like? And grade configurations. And then how much will it save us, was the second lens, to organize in this way? Because, of course, each of the 4 different scenarios will present different costs and savings. And then the third look would be, how will each of these scenarios prepare our students? Scott had talked about outcomes and prepare them for high school and then beyond high school. And that's what we're doing on April 27th. At the first meeting in May, we're going to have a really deep discussion about the option that we looked at in February, which was the potential of moving the 5th grade youngsters to Broad Rock Middle School. We had 2 community forums and school committee time devoted to that conversation, but when the revenue shortfalls started being communicated from the state, our meetings went too long to continue that discussion in, I think it was either March or April. And then at the end of May, our second school committee meeting in May, we're going to take I'm not sure how I phrased it online, but take a look at the options if the revenue shortfall does come to fruition.
Well, thank you. I think if, once you have those meetings and people will be clear on what the options are, and, as we get more information, obviously we'll all know more, and that will help us, and then you'll know. So it's a process, as Kathy keeps saying, and unfortunately, it's so uncertain this year, and hopefully, with these meetings that the superintendent just spelled out, if you can listen to that, instead of listening to the playground gossip, listen to these meetings, and maybe that will help you figure out where we are going and the frustration that we're all feeling with what's happening at the state level. So I hope that's what I'm trying to, stick with. Stop listening to all the chatter out and about and try and listen to what is being said at these meetings. And as we move on, I think it'll become clearer what we're looking at and what's facing us. And I hope that helps. I mean, it's obviously we can't give you a clear-cut answer tonight, but I hope it helps down the road.
Thank you, Carol. Polly?
Yeah, Carol, thank you so much, because I think that you made it much clearer. And thank you very much, Dr. Stringfellow, because I think people don't understand the process. They think we're here, to debate what the school should do? We're not. That's the school committee's job to decide what they want to do or what they have to do, and our only job is to see that they get money, as much money as we can give them. And I think those meetings will be extremely helpful. I think that the things you are facing are extremely difficult. I think we all have the hope and the knowledge that you will do the best thing for our children in town. That's what we all want, as Carol said. We all care deeply about an excellent education for every child in town. And I know that's the bottom line for all of you, too. So good luck. We're here to give you all the support we can. It's an extremely congenial group of people, I think. I have never hesitated to call any of you, and I think we will work together. I think it's an extremely hard time with so much up in the air, and I'm shocked that at this point, because we postponed our meetings in the hopes that we would have more information, we don't have any more information than we did a couple of months ago, literally. So good luck, and keep up the good work. Thank you, Kathy.
And Ella? Thank you, Polly.
I also would like to echo, almost lost the water. We don't need any more floods. Echo the sentiments of Carol and Polly. And I'd like to just add that the NASDAQ report, if you're looking through those lenses, Dr. Stringfellow, will the recommendation that the NASDAQ has made for criteria for evaluation of options also be included in some of those three lenses that you have, such as the long-range planning, the flexibility, the educational programs, and minimum disruption? On page 64, it goes on two more, the financial responsibility and consistent with school committee policy and guidelines. So will somehow those be woven into the presentation?
I can certainly do my very best to review page 64 and try to include that lens in it if you think that will be helpful to the presentation of the evening. I know certainly minimum disruption is something that when you were listing them that caught my ear. So I think it's a good idea to take a look at that list again.
I think that some of the criticism, that we've heard at town council and school committee meetings is that long-term planning. And I know that that's one of the recommendations from NASDAQ out of those 6 recommendations when the school committee looks at criteria for evaluation of options. It's page 64 and 65. So I think that what we've heard, at town council, school committee meetings, some of this may flush out and help better look at how things can get moved forward for a long-term planning.
I
So I
agree.
appreciate that.
And I know that Member Frostick isn't here this evening. I think that he's in Washington, but he spoke at the last school committee meeting, and I know that you were there, about sort of a two-prong effect that we're dealing right now, unfortunately, with additional burden because we don't know about the short-term revenue. But certainly the NESDEC study lends itself very well to forming a conversation in the second prong about long-term planning, and I believe that this body is committed to that. I think that we'll continually, over the next couple of years, be faced with times where we're reacting to some solutions that were not right in front of us from a revenue side, but I think that we are certainly committed to long-term planning.
And if I could just follow through with one more, and I don't need a response, Kristen, but at some future meeting with the BEP, and I don't know, if that's an official document. I don't think that it is. I'm not sure of the date that
July 1st.
July 1st it will become official. And in reading through that document, I'm not sure with any budget implications how that's going to play as a factor into rolling out a quality education and continuing quality education for children. But I've read through that, and I see some major concerns if that is more mandates. For instance, the response to intervention. I don't know if the school district is going to ask for a waiver for that. I think we're supposed to be doing that now at the elementary school, but that's budget implications. I mean, the list goes on and on and on in reading through that basic education plan, so didn't know how that was going to factor into the educational deficit that we're in now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ella. And I'll just make a quick comment that I don't envy the seats that the school committee is sitting in. It's very, very difficult. It's very difficult for the town council side, but it's difficult at every community level across the state of Rhode Island, and things have been happening in other towns with schools closing, and other towns are trying to push off, even putting a budget together for 3 months, as we talked about last night, something that the town of South Kingstown is not going to do. Obviously, we talked about the implications that would happen, and we all know that we don't have the numbers, and it's not a clear picture. As Polly said, we thought we pushed this meeting back an extra week, thinking that we would have more numbers and have, a little bit more, idea of where we're going, but we don't, and we're still talking about this year's numbers, and it's ridiculous, and that we're planning next year's budget, and they haven't figured out what they're doing with this year's budget. It leaves us all in a very tough position. A lot of things have been said, around, the town, and people have come up and spoke. They have to keep in mind that that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with such a whole bunch of moving targets here, and it is a process, and that's what happens every year. People get very frustrated. After doing it for 8 years, I certainly have, barely any experience compared to Mr. Alford, but after 8 years, if you feel like you got that, you have to wait and see what you got for the numbers, and people have to be calm and have to be patient, and some decisions are hard to make, but again, it's that whole balancing act of what we have to do, and at least this town right now has this preliminary budget that the whole town council has, moved forward as a guide for this town, and I'm proud of that from the school committee side, and I'm proud of that from the town council side, that we're at this point, and these are the numbers that I stand behind, and I think the rest of the council stands behind. With the uncertainties coming forward at us from the state, we don't know what the numbers are going to be. Then they might set the numbers. Then we get next year's budget. Then we might get an education funding formula in there. And don't think for a second that we're not going to see a supplemental cut coming our way probably next February and March. So these are the things, the big pictures that you're all thinking about right now. We have to think of the bigger picture going out, because we got walloped as far as the municipality, which everybody seems to have forgotten about, at the beginning of this year. That's why even the increase of the 1.54% on the tax levy really was more on the municipal side of the budget versus the school committee being level, because we were hurt by the state. So it's a lot of different things that are coming at us at this point. So that extra, here we are with this year's budget that we have to look at, then we have, whenever they decide on next year's budget, then we have all right, we're in debt again, and here's the supplementals that come down, and more cuts coming to the cities and towns. So you think of here's the bullseye, it's a little bit bigger, it's a little bit bigger. That means the numbers get bigger. Again, it's a process. Bear with us. We're trying to do the best. If anybody doesn't think that this town council or this school committee doesn't care about the kids in this town, I don't know where they've been for the past decade that I've been, dealing with the town council. Again, I've only been here 8 years, but I really started focusing in on it even 10 years ago. There's not one person up here that I can say does not care about the kids in this school, and that's the number one priority. Has been, always has been. Public education has always been near and dear to my heart and always will be near and dear to my heart since childhood. I went to my town meetings when I was a kid, well, I was 18, when I could vote, and I was supporting the budgets then to support the schools. And we just have a lot of things coming at us with the bad economy, people who can't, stay in their houses. These are the things that the council has to balance. So it's a balance and it's a process, and I'm going to keep saying that until we finally close out this budget this year. So that's all I want to say to that. And with that, I think I've let everybody speak, and we're going to move on from the school fund to the Peacedale office building. If anybody has any comments or concerns about the Peacedale office building, please come forward. It's a nice building. Anybody? Nobody? Okay, the Neighborhood Guild? Okay, next is the Water Enterprise Fund. Okay, next we move on to the Wastewater Enterprise Fund. Anybody have any questions about that? Go ahead. I thought we had a taker there for a second. We do like to talk about our sludge disposal and processing, but if nobody's interested, okay. We'll move on to the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund. I love the transfer station, I just want to add, do a great job. The Senior Citizens Program? No? Okay. Any of the resolutions on the back page? 1 through 12? No? Hearing none? Any other closing comments from our finance? Nope. Nope. All right, then this meeting is adjourned, and the time is 8:30 on the nose.